Hi guys, I'm Karl Taylor. Today I'm going to show you what I do to my images before I put them on my website, just to make sure that they look their best. I've got a couple of little things I do. I'm going to show you the resizing process, adding a copyright logo and sharpening. And I'm also going to show you how I sometimes automate that process using an action so that I can do a whole batch of images to speed things up. And I'll show you a couple of other script batch processing things that will help your workflow. So this is my website. It's a Squarespace one. I think it's the Wells template. And I really love this particular template for the way that it can display the images in really high quality, full size, or it can show me thumbnails. It also has, the fact that it resizes to any device really quickly. But there are some things that I want to apply to make sure that my images still look their best on here, because obviously this is what my clients are seeing, or prospective clients are seeing, and I really want to make sure that the images look good. So I've got a batch of images in this folder that need to be put on my website, some new ones that I haven't added to the website yet. So I'm going to show you what I would do to an image, and then I'll show you how I batch process that as well. So for example, let's take this first image, this image of Deborah jumping. Really like this shot, and it all looks great. It's been retouched and finished and everything else there, but it's a TIFF file. It's hugely big, and I've got to reduce it and convert it to a JPEG, add a copyright logo for the website. So the first thing that I need to do is to get the image to the right size, because it's a massive 118 meg file at the moment, and I need to add a copyright logo. So I'm going to just show you how I would do that just manually, and then I'm going to show you how I do that in a batch process. So the first thing is I change my image size to 2500 pixels on the longest side. Now that might sound quite large to a lot of you. Oops, that wasn't linked on there. 2500. That might sound quite large to some of you, but when a lot of my clients, art directors, designers, they're using 4K, 5K monitors, then I need the image to be a decent size so it remains crisp on their screen. So this is the image now at 2500 pixels. It's still a TIFF, but I always find that I need to give the images a little bit of sharpening. So I go into Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, and I apply generally 100% at 0.5. And if we take a quick look at that and I flick it on and off, you can see. Now this one is from a 35mm format camera. I shoot a lot of medium format stuff, so some of my medium format work might not need sharpening. Some of it I might apply just because I like the little boost in contrast that the sharpen gives for the web. But this one looks pretty good with a half a pixel sharpen. So that's what I would apply to that image. Then I've got the issue that I want to put a copyright logo. So I press text, T to get text, and I make sure I've got white, and I click Alt-G, which gives me the copyright symbol, then type in my name. Actually, I don't want that font. Let me just get to Helvetica instead. Alt-G, space, Karl Taylor, and that's all I do for my copyright logo. Now I can move it around, size it. I generally just put it in the bottom right hand corner, shrink it right down, scale, and I don't have it too intrusive, and then I just drop the opacity right down so it's not so noticeable, so it's almost invisible. And that's it. And then I'll save that image as a JPEG, but I need to convert it to sRGB. So I'd edit, convert the profile from Adobe RGB, which is at the moment, into an sRGB profile, say OK, and then that's done. And now I could save it as a JPEG. Now I've got two options in saving it as a JPEG. I can just file save as a JPEG, or I can use the export for web legacy one, which allows me to control the quality and look at the artifact. So for example, if I drop the quality down to there, I get a much smaller file size of 106 kilobytes there, which will help it load quicker on the website. But now look at the deterioration, the banding that I'm getting. That's at quality 20. So I can mess around with this now until I get it to a quality that I think is acceptable. But the file size has jumped up to 325 there. But if I put it at full quality, the file size is 1.8 meg. So it's kind of like you need to look at the image. And the great thing with the Save for Web Legacy is you can have a look at the image in detail and decide what is an acceptable level. I generally find that sort of 65, we're okay. There's not too much problems. If the image is a really busy image with a lot of stuff going on in it, then you might need a slightly higher quality. So we're just going to say 70 on this one. And that gets me about half the file size that I would have had. And then I can say save, and then the image is ready then to upload to the website. So there's quite a few steps involved there in doing that. And I want to speed that process up. So one of the things I'm going to do is create an action and batch process all of those images. Or I'm going to show you. I mean, a lot of times I do it manually, one at a time, because I want to control obviously where the copyright logo goes, the opacity of the logo, looking at this sort of thing. But if you have got a batch of images you want to do, let me show you how we can do that. So let me just go back in the history so that we undo all the stuff that I've done there and get back to the start. So we're back where we were. So what I want to do then is I want to write an action. And creating an action is very simple. If you go to your window, get your actions palette open. My actions one is actually open there anyway. Now I'm set to button mode at the moment in actions, but I don't want button mode on. I turn button mode off, and then I can now see I can now see all of my actions as a list. Let me just extend that out a little bit. And I've got my Karl speed up actions that you can see here, and I've got loads of different actions in there. I'm just going to record a new action. So I go to here and then I just say new action, and I call it ready for web, for example. Let's just call it that for the moment. And I say record, and then it's starting to record. Now it's not actually recording right now because it's not doing anything, so you don't need to worry about it. It's not like a tape recorder recording you know, a long thing. You can leave it as long as you want. It only records when you actually do something. So you can see the little record light is on there, and now everything that I do will be recorded. So I now want to do an image resize, but because I've got landscape images and horizontal images, doing an image resize isn't the best way to do it. So I'm going to do it a different way. File, automate, and it's fit image. And I'm going to choose that I want the images to fit, constrain within the dimensions that I put in here. Now, because I've used these dimensions previously, they're already in there. 2,500 pixels wide or 2,500 pixels high. You can also check the box don't enlarge in case you've got images smaller than that, which I haven't in this folder. So I say OK. Now it's shrunk the image to that size and it's recorded that particular part of the process. The next part of the process I want to do is do the sharpening. So I'm going to say filter, sharpen, unsharp mask, and I'm going to add half a pixel radius sharpening at 100%. Say OK. That's recorded that in the action's still recording. And then I can choose to add the copyright logo. So now I'll use the text tool. Because the copyright logo position and opacity will be different for each image, I'm not really too fussed about where I put it at the moment. I'm just going to click here, Alt-G, space Karl Taylor, and I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to sort that out afterwards. And then I want to say File, Save, and then I want to close the file, and then I stop recording the action, and that is my action now ready to run. Now I've already run it on that image, so I'm going to take that one out of the folder. And if you're a little bit worried about doing this, one thing I suggest is that you duplicate the folder of images, which I've already done because this is a copy of that folder. So duplicating it just means you've got a safety buffer there. Now this batch of TIFF images in this folder now, I can just simply run that action by going File, Automate Batch, choose the action that I just created. It's already there, ready for web, because that's the last one I created. Choose the folder of images, choose. I suppress the file open options and the color profile warnings so it doesn't stop the process of opening the images. I don't need to choose destination or save and close here because I've already said save and close in the command. And now I just press OK. And then the whole batch of images will be processed and saved. And as I said, I have to go back in and adjust the opacity of the copyright logo and the position, but I would have had to done that anyway because it's different for every image. But this is just showing you how you can speed up your process by writing actions to solve problems and make things a little bit quicker. Now we could have also included, so that's done now, but we could also create an action to save for web or export for web at a given parameter of quality, as well as another batch action afterwards. Okay, so now if I open any of these images, they have been sharpened and the copyright logo is there. But I want to move the copyright logo, change its size for each image. Now you could have done this as an action automated, but you would have had to separate your landscape images from your portrait shape images to get the thing in the right position. And you still have to adjust the opacity manually afterwards because some images it needs less opacity if it's on like a dark background, and other images it's going to need a brighter opacity or a brighter logo if it's on a light background. So there is still some level of manual control needed. Now, I'm also going to show you how we can create an alternative copyright logo. So let me just show you. If I go back into text, let's say you want something that's a little bit more permanent, a little bit more difficult to remove. I'm going to choose Arial Black. And I'm going to make that bigger. So I'm going to edit, transform scale. And then now I'm going to do a different process. I'm going to choose layer style, bevel and emboss. And I'm going to choose my bevel emboss style. It's set to emboss at the moment. Just going to change the size of that bevel and emboss there. And I'm going to just say OK to that. Now the trick here is to then take the fill layer and knock the fill or the fill part to 0. So now I've got the fill to 0, plus I can now change the opacity of the actual bevel and emboss part as well, which gives me a sort of transparent, sort of invisible, like a stamp, if you like, bevel and emboss stamp, but without the white text being there as well. And then I can always go into the bevel and emboss and then change the parameters slightly of the bevel and emboss, how harsh it is, the size of it, that sort of thing. So I'm making it a little bit crisper here, just looking at the depth of it there, changing that, saying okay. And now I've got quite a crisp copyright logo that's transparent, that's not interfering too much with the image, but is more difficult for someone to remove from your image. Now, I'm not too worried about it. I've got my normal copyright logo in the corner. That's enough for me, but that just shows you the protection. If you want a higher level of protection on your image, that's another way of doing it. Okay, so now I've got to get all my images ready to export as JPEGs. And as I said, you can do it the way where you save each one at a particular quality. So I could run and record another action using the save for web legacy command, or I can use the file image processor command. So scripts image processor, and then you can choose here, save as an RGB, save the quality level, so I could set quality level 7 there, and convert to sRGB profile. I don't need to resize to fit because I've already sized the images to 2500. I've got my copyright info that will be embedded into the image, and then I just choose the folder. So I'm going to choose that folder, and I say open, run, and now it's going to make all of those images at JPEGs, at the 7 quality with the sRGB profile, which is important for using on the web. And then I'll be able to load those images directly into my Squarespace site really quickly, which I'll show you as well. Now, I'm doing it at the moment without having done my copyright logos in the right position yet, because I don't want to waste your time watching me do that on all of them. So we'll cut this and come back to it and do it again once I've done that. So they're all done, and now they're in the new folder called JPEGs, nice and simple. Now I just need to log into my Squarespace website. So that's my actual site, but I want to get into the Squarespace login for my admin. So I go to login on Squarespace, choose login, choose my website, then go to pages, choose the page that I want to add images to. So let's start with the people shots. So I go to the people page of my website. There's a load of images there. Let's just shrink this down a little bit so I can move that over. Let's arrange this a little bit better. So now I'll grab each of the images that relate to my people category, and I simply drag those images into that block, and those images will load in to Squarespace into my template, and they're all there now, nice and quick. And now I can just rearrange them. So if I want this image near the top because they're a more recent image, so I might say, right, actually I like this image to go here, and now that image is there in my website. And if I go to my actual website, into the people section, and that image is now on my website. It's been sharpened, it's got the copyright logo, everything that I needed on it. So now I just got to rearrange the images into the order I want on the Squarespace site, which is really simple and quick. I can just pick up an image and drag it to the position where I would like that image to be displayed. So let's just say, for example, on this one, I want to put that image there, and now that image has been added into that position on the site. And that's how easy it is. And that's one of the reasons I love using Squarespace website, because they are so quick and simple to update and maintain, and the quality of the images looks really great. So if you guys want to check out my website, it's Karl Taylor, K-A-R-L, taylorportfolio.com, or you want to see our education website, that's karltayloreducation.com. Also remember, if you want to get yourself a Squarespace website, you can get 10% off by using the offer code KARL, K-A-R-L. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed that.